Hello craft lovers, and welcome once again to another exciting edition. Today we'll be making an Ankara reversible bomber jacket. It's a rainy season over here and it's going to be an exciting tutorial, so make sure you stay tuned to the end of this video. So welcome once again, and today's tutorial, it's really going to be an exciting one. So these are the tools I'll be using to create this bomber jacket. You will need your pattern paper, a marker, a ruler, your tape rule, and a scissors. Right now, what I have here is my wooden ruler. As usual, I don't have a pattern master. So if you have a pattern master, you can always go ahead and use it. So these are the materials I'll be using. This is 100% Ankara cotton material and a lining, a matching lining, tissue gum, or preferably if you can get a hairstay, you can also use it. Hairstays come in white and also in black, so you could get a hairstay, but in this case what I had here at the time was a tissue gum. Yes, there's this fusible gum they call tissue gum, though it's quite a handy tool and I kind of like it. It's cool. And then this is the ribbon material. So the ribbon material doesn't come in yards, it just comes in strips like this. Yes, they come in strips like this, so you would need to cut your desired length. So this is the measurement I will be working with. Her shoulder 13, her round chest 28, so her round waist 26 as well. The length of this jacket will be 19 and her armhole would also be about 6 inches as well. So I'll be folding my pattern paper on fold. I'll be folding my pattern paper, and then the first thing you want to do is to divide her shoulder measurement by 2. You divide her shoulder measurement by 2 and then go ahead and add an extra 2 to 3 inches. So the bomber jacket is not a tight outfit. It's meant to be a little bit loose on you. The only part that may look a bit closed in will be your waistband, and that's because of the ribbon material. The ribbon material always stretches. So I'm taking in her shoulder, taking her shoulder measurement, as you can see in the video right now. So whatever shoulder measurement you're working with is what you'll be marking at your starting line. Anywhere can be your starting line, so long as you're marking everything that you need on a vertical form. So I've gone ahead to mark, and I always like to leave an extra ½ inch. Now some bomber jackets, the shoulder part always looks kind of longer, so if that's what you want, you can extend your shoulder by an extra 3 or 5 inches if that is what you want. But this is a kiddies bomber jacket, so I won't be doing any of that. I just used her exact measurement and added an extra inch for seam allowance. So I'm going ahead to take her armhole measurement. Now for your armhole, when drafting the bomber jacket, your armhole is not supposed to be tight. So if your armhole ends up to be 6, you should be using at least 8 inches for your armhole, or even going beyond that, because the bomber jacket is not supposed to be a fitted garment. So I'm going ahead to mark her chest line as well as the length of the bomber jacket. So this is the length The length was supposed to be about 18 inches, but I gave an extra 2 inches. So I'm going ahead to rule the line, as you can see. So whatever length you're using, try as much as possible to add an extra inch, except you're trying to make a kind of stylish bumper jacket. But here I added an extra 2 to 3 inches. So her chest circumference, or you can also call it round chest, was supposed to be about 6.5, but I went ahead to add an extra 3 inches and then took my seam allowance, that is the side seam allowance. So I'm going ahead again and marking the waist. Now the waist is supposed to be 6.5, but as usual I added an extra 3 inches plus my 1 inch allowance. So you can add as much as you want, but because this is a kiddies bumper jacket, you don't want to make it too big for them. Yes, it's true, children grow and all, but there's really no use making it so big. Just make it a bit moderate, and then you can go ahead and do what you want to do. So I'm just making a correction there because I realized I didn't take an exact 3 inches. So I've done that and I've ruled my final line. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is to take the required neckline. So I'm using this pattern paper for both my front piece and my back. Now this is a kiddies jacket. I don't need to use the standard measurement of 3 inches width and 3 inches depth. So I'm going ahead to use at least 2.5. I don't want her neckline to be too clustered or tight. So I'm going ahead to take 2.5 for the width. And then for the back length or the back depth, I went ahead with 1 inches. And then I will still go ahead and take in my front depth, and I'll be using 2.5 inches for the front neck depth. So I'm using this one piece of paper for both the front and the back because I didn't have enough pattern papers available. So you can see I have labeled that the back 1 inch, the front 2.5 inches. So I went ahead to draw my curve along the armhole line. Another thing you need to know is that the bumper jacket has no darts. There are no darts at all. So go ahead and mark your required measurements and then cut this out. So the next thing you also want to take note of is your zip allowance. Now the zipper is going to reflect at the front part of the bumper jacket and not at the back. So because I had limited amounts of pattern paper, I just had one piece and I wanted to use it for all of the tutorial. So sometimes you may not have enough pattern papers, so you can actually apply this method of mine. You draft out both the back and the front, and then you draft out the zip allowance. Here your zip allowance can be as much as 1 inches, or you can use as much as 1.5. I always advise to use excess inches whenever you're dealing with a zipper or dealing with allowances, especially on the side seam. You can always trim off your excess later on. So I'm going ahead to extend the neck lines because this is the zipper area. You need to extend those lines towards the zip allowance. I've gone ahead to cut this out. So as it stands now, this particular pattern paper has an inclusion of both the back bodies and the front. I hope this won't be confusing to you. Just know this: your zip allowance is going to be for your front, and then when it's time for you to cut out the back, all you need to do is to fold in this zip allowance section and then cut your back. So you don't need to cut the back part together with the zip allowance. So when cutting the back, fold in your zip allowance. When cutting your front, open up the zip allowance. I hope this is well understood. But if you know this might be a bit confusing and tasky for you, you can get more than enough pattern papers, draft out your back differently or separately without the zipper, and then draft out the front of your bodies with the zipper. I've gone ahead to cut out my sleeve. I'll be showing a tutorial on how to cut a sleeve. I didn't want this video to be very lengthy. Already it looks so lengthy, and I wanted us to go straight to the point and cut out. So look out for my video on how to cut out a sleeve. So I've gone ahead to cut out the main fabrics. The Ankara fabric I'm using, this is really lovely. The patterns are just so cute. So this is my ribbon material, and I'm taking a measurement of the measurement of her wrist. That's for the wristband. You can see that the ribbon material, or you can also call it a rib knit material, it stretches. So I'm just going to cut out the wristband area, and then look at how it's supposed to look like. So what I do always is, whenever it comes to elastic bands and very stretchy materials like this, I always like to divide the round measurement I'm working with by 2, and then add up at least 1 inch or 2 inches. So in this case, for the wristband and the waistband, I added as much as 2 extra inches, just so that the outfit doesn't become too tight for the kid. So I've gone ahead to also cut out the lining and also iron out the fusible tissue gum to the lining. And these are the parts I'm working with. You can see the sleeve. I also cut out linings for the sleeve because this is going to be a reversible bumper jacket. And I wanted to use a matching lining for it. If you want, you can also use another patterned fabric for the inner part so that the outfit can be worn either ways. So this is actually how your outfit should look like. This is how your outfit should look like when you're done. So I'm going ahead to sew the shoulder lines. And I have done that on the sewing machine. I've sewn the shoulder lines because this is the very first stage before you go ahead with other things. So after doing that, I also did the same to the lining. So whatsoever you do on the main fabric, that's on the outer fabric, also apply the same thing on your inner fabric or your lining, whatever you're going to be working with. So next step is I'm going to fold this in. Folding it means folding it towards the center part, and I would take the round neck measurement, because in order for you to sew in your collar or cut your collar, you must first of all measure up the round neck after sewing your shoulder line. So I'm going ahead to do that, but I will be stopping that measurement at the zipper points. I will not extend the measurement to the end of the zip. So you may need to notch your 1.5 or 1 inch zip allowance in order for you not to extend the measurement by mistake. So I'm taking a pattern paper to cut out the collar. And what I got after all measurements was 7 inches, and I'm also going to add at least half or 1 inch allowance, but 1 inch will be too much because the rib net fabric has a stretchy effect to it. So on this collar, the 2 inches I'm working with was drafted simply because of trimming. So like as I said, I always like to leave enough allowances and then go back and also trim. This particular neck wideness may be too much for the kid, so I went ahead at the end of the day to use about 1.5 inches. So this is how you go about the collar. This is how you go about the collar. It's not compulsory to take in ½ inch at the end. You can just draw this slant line to the end to give a pointed edge. But on your pattern, it's advisable to have a little inches, then you can manipulate it while sewing. So I've gone ahead to cut this out. This particular measurement was a little bit too wide for me, and there's something about the collar. Now, do not cut your collars like this, because the rib knit was formed in such a way that all you need to do is to actually fold along the width area, and then using the folded edge, that is what will be used, rather than cutting it in single forms and then joining it as you saw earlier. So I'm going ahead to just cut out the collar. I would also trim this collar up, because while I was cutting, the rib knit was too thick for the scissors to cut through comfortably. So I went ahead. Now, although I measured exactly the measurement on the paper, I did not cut exactly on the length on the rib knit fabric. The reason for this is because the rib knit stretches. So, and I need this pattern in case I'm to produce something else similar to this bumper jacket. So I'm going ahead to remeasure, and what I have was about 2 inches. It was too wide, so I took out an extra ½ inches off from my measurement. Then I went ahead to notch the mid section of the rib knit fabric, that's the collar parts, and then you want to go ahead and pin down these areas up. So this is how I'm pinning it up. You can see my notched part there, and if you look at it, you see the way I'm placing the collar. The tip of the collar is what I faced towards the notch of the zip. So this collar is not supposed to get to the end of your front bodice. And this is because you want this collar to have a kind of slanted effect at the end of the day. So I've gone ahead to sew up the collar, and then you will need to pick out the inner part of your fabric, place it in this form as you can see in the video, and also go ahead and sew this up. I've gone ahead to sew it up, and this is what it looks like. The edges of the collar is not supposed to show. So this is what we have. Make sure you stay tuned for the part 2 of this video so that we can see how everything ended up to be. Bye.